Think about the creeping anxiety of the ticking clock, of the dig pack. A student sends an eager message. They want to buy your course right now. The problem is, you are fast asleep.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Right. And by the time you finally wake up and read that notification, the moment has passed. It is already too late. They have purchased a completely different course from someone else.
Oh, absolutely. The digital economy moves fast.
It really does. You did answer them eventually, but timing was the real problem. Every single hour you wait is a sale you might lose.
2 sec silence.
Welcome to today's deep dive.
We have a highly practical but frankly fascinating mission today. We are exploring a step-by-step framework to fully automate student success, and we are looking specifically at utilizing Base44 AI agents.
Right, so we'll explore how to build an intelligent assistant that answers instantly, one that pulls strictly from your real course material.
Yeah, and most importantly, an assistant that knows exactly when to shut up.
Exactly. It knows when to hand the conversation right back over to you.
And the absolute best part of this entire framework, there is zero coding required to deploy it. Like, none.
Which is music to my ears. But before we actually build the technology, we have to pause. We have to isolate the underlying human friction point.
Right, the actual problem we're solving.
We are talking about the visceral pain of losing sales.
Yeah.
Or that parallel pain of just drowning in inbox noise.
Oh, the inbox noise is real.
It is. The golden rule here is an exercise in restraint. You have to pick one single job first.
Yeah, just one.
Maybe it is solely handling onboarding questions, or maybe it's exclusively processing refunds. But do not give in to the temptation to automate everything at once.
Restraint is actually the secret to scaling here, because once you isolate that single specific job, we can look at the architecture. The agent needs 5 core computational skills to succeed. First is conversation. It must understand oddly phrased, messy human questions.
Right.
Second is retrieval. Pulling answers from verified material, never guessing.
Never guessing. That's huge.
Third is task execution. Actually doing things, like logging a support ticket. Fourth is escalation, knowing its own limits and alerting you.
And the fifth?
Fifth is multi-channel delivery, operating wherever the student already happens to message you.
I have a vulnerable admission to make here.
Oh, let's hear it.
I still wrestle with trying to automate my entire workflow all at once.
It's so tempting, isn't it?
It is. I get excited by the technology.
Yeah.
But it usually ends in total chaos. Building this agent feels a lot like hiring a specialist.
Exactly.
You do not want a jack of all trades handling sensitive customer issues. You want someone highly focused. But that does bring up a deeper architectural question.
Okay.
Why can't we just unleash the AI on the whole inbox from day one?
Because the complexity scales exponentially, not linearly. When you give an AI every single task in your business, the variables multiply rapidly.
I see.
It begins to lose its contextual focus. It might easily confuse a simple onboarding question with a highly complex refund dispute. You have to get one specific isolated job working perfectly first.
Right. Only then do you introduce a second job. Limiting the scope drastically mitigates the risk of a catastrophic failure.
So limiting scope stops variables from multiplying into huge mistakes.
Precisely. Which brings us to the actual cognitive setup.
Once we have isolated that single job, we have to choose the brain. We have to select the computational engine that will actually do the work.
Yeah, the fun part.
Navigating the Base44 environment relies on a pretty straightforward philosophy. You are essentially clicking in and creating what they call a super agent.
And setting up that brain requires a choice between 2 primary models. In the system, you configure both the chat model and the automations model.
Okay.
For most initial setups, you want to set both of these to Sonnet 4.6.
Let me just pause to clarify the terminology here. A model is just the digital brain processing the text.
That is exactly it. Perfect definition. And Sonnet 4.6 is widely available on standard plans. It is incredibly efficient.
It is fantastic for basic tasks like logging requests and answering straightforward questions. Now, there is a heavier alternative called Opus 4.8.
Okay, Opus.
Yeah, Opus is a much stronger engine for highly complex, multi-layered decisions. But utilizing Opus requires a higher-tier builder plan.
I have to push back on that logic a bit, though.
Sure.
If we are building a system to represent our brand, why not use the smartest engine? Why not just default to Opus 4.8 from day one?
It ultimately comes down to computational economy. Your initial agent is just answering basic questions and logging simple requests.
Right.
The logic is straightforward enough that it simply does not require the heavy processing power of Opus. Using Opus for a simple password reset is like using a supercomputer to calculate a tip.
That makes sense.
If your agent eventually scales to handle much harder, nuanced decisions, the architecture is flexible. You just swap the engine to Opus later without having to rebuild the entire agent.
We just save expensive computing power for when decisions actually get complicated.
Exactly, and that distinction is crucial. But raw intellect is not enough. A smart brain is totally useless if the delivery is abrasive.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If it sounds like a condescending robot, the user experience breaks down. We have to give it a personality. This is where we focus heavily on the role prompt. It functions exactly like a detailed job description for a human employee.
Yeah, you don't just tell a new hire to help customers.
Right. You define who they are and who they are talking to.
You tell the agent its exact identity. You literally type out, "You are a student success coach for an online course."
Mm-hmm.
You define its specific responsibilities within that identity. Answer questions, help stuck students, point them to the next logical step, but defining the role is only half the battle.
The tone prompt is just as vital. The psychological impact of tone matters immensely here. Beat. A beginner struggling with a course does not want a lecture.
No, they don't.
They're already frustrated. They never want to feel talked down to by a machine.
So you engineer the tone directly into the prompt. Be encouraging and clear. Explain things simply. You explicitly command it to never sound condescending to a beginner.
I love that.
And the real tell that this psychological framing is working is fascinating. A properly prompted agent will usually ask you a follow-up question during its own setup.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it might ask you which specific course it is supporting, or it might ask where your students tend to get stuck the most.
It genuinely mimics a real coach trying to understand their environment. Prompting tone feels exactly like directing an actor.
That's a great way to put it.
You cannot just say, read the lines.
Yeah.
You have to give them a deep, underlying motivation.
Yeah.
But how do we physically prevent the AI from sounding fake?
Ah.
How do we stop that overly enthusiastic robotic fluff?
By enforcing strict linguistic boundaries in that tone prompt, you tell it to be encouraging, but you also mandate that it remains clear and simple. The command for simplicity strips away that verbose, robotic fluff we all recognize. It forces the agent to speak directly. It prevents it from acting like an overly caffeinated golden retriever.
Right.
And makes it sound like a grounded, helpful human.
Strict simplicity strips away that verbose fluff, forcing it to mimic humans.
Yeah. Which leads us directly to the grounding phase.
The brain's library. Now that the agent knows how to speak, it needs actual substance. It needs to know what to say.
Exactly.
You have to tether it to absolute facts.
This is where you introduce your specific knowledge base. In the Base44 environment, you integrate your documents directly into its memory.
So uploading files via Google Drive or direct attachments.
Right. You connect your course curriculum, you feed it your exact refund policy, you give it your common login fixes, and your precise pricing tiers.
This establishes the ultimate non-negotiable safety rule. The agent must pull answers only from these specific documents.
Only those documents.
No creative guessing is allowed. If the answer is not in the text, it must admit it. But what if a student asks a totally reasonable question?
Okay.
What if the answer just isn't in the uploaded PDF?
Then the agent must explicitly say that it does not know.
Wow.
That is the core mechanism that keeps the entire system trustworthy. An AI agent that confidently admits ignorance is fundamentally safe.
Right.
An agent that tries to please the user by making up a plausible-sounding answer costs you money. More importantly, it costs you your brand's reputation.
Admitting ignorance builds user trust way faster than a confident hallucinated response.
Completely.
Sponsor.
We are back. Moving into the architecture of guardrails. Raw knowledge alone is not enough. The agent needs actual wisdom.
Yeah, it does.
It needs to know how to guide a frustrated student, and crucially, it needs to know when to step back entirely.
This is where conversation rules become the backbone of the interaction. A good agent always points the conversation toward a useful next step.
Right. If a student says the course is simply too hard, what happens? The agent shouldn't just summarize a dense lesson. It needs a behavioral rule.
It should assess if they actually need to be moved to the beginner track.
Exactly. The rule dictates that it must ask which specific part is troubling them. If they reveal they are missing foundational basics, it mentions the beginner track. It asks if they want to switch. But if they're just temporarily stuck on one specific lesson, it points them to the right supplemental material. It does not blindly suggest a track change without assessing the context first.
It functions a lot like a triage nurse at a busy hospital.
I like that analogy.
It smoothly handles the superficial scrapes and bruises, but it knows exactly when the situation requires paging the actual doctor.
And that brings us to the escalation rules. Some requests absolutely require human intervention. Take a refund request that arrives past your stated deadline.
Okay.
The agent needs a specific rule for handling your 14-day policy.
Right. If the request falls inside the 14-day window, the agent processes it. It walks the student through the next steps.
Yeah.
But if it falls outside the window, it does not approve or deny it. It simply collects the order number. It collects the reason for the request.
Exactly.
It lets them know a human team member will follow up. Then it passes the ticket to you. But what happens if your typed rule accidentally contradicts the uploaded policy document?
Oh, this is great. The system employs a brilliant semantic conflict check. If the number of days in your text rule logically contradicts the embedded data in your policy file, the system halts.
Really?
Yeah. The agent will flag the discrepancy and ask you for clarification before saving the rule. It does not just blindly pick a number on its own and hope for the best.
The system acts as a fail-safe against our own naturally contradictory instructions.
It is a profound layer of safety. This strict escalation protocol is what separates a truly useful agent from a highly risky liability. Beat. Now we transition to taking the training wheels off entirely.
We have given it behavioral rules. Now we have to give it the digital hands required to actually do the work.
Yep, time to test it.
Then we throw our absolute hardest fastballs at it to see if it breaks. We have to adjust its fundamental security permissions.
You go to Customize, then Security. You have to toggle its ability to manipulate data. By default, systems usually keep update data and delete data permissions turned off.
Right, to keep it safe.
In a read-only state, the agent can only fetch information. It cannot change anything in your system. You have to intentionally grant it right permissions so it can actually log support requests and edit user records.
Once it has hands, we test the extremes. We always start with the easy test. You ask the agent a question about a course you do not even offer.
And it should immediately refuse to guess.
Exactly. This confirms the agent is strictly tethered to its designated files.
Then you hit it with the hard test. You prompt it with something really messy. I bought the course 3 weeks ago and I want a refund, but I also can't seem to log into the portal. Can you help me with both?
That's a lot for one message.
Whoa. Imagine the system catching a date violation on a refund while simultaneously fixing a login bug in one breath without dropping the ball. That is wild.
It really is a marvel to observe. It should instantly catch that the 3-week mark is outside the stated refund window.
Right.
It asks for the order number instead of approving the refund. But at the exact same time, it continues the conversation to resolve the login problem.
Yep.
Because it understands that one part of the query needing a human doesn't mean the entire interaction just stops. But why do we intentionally bundle two totally different problems into one test prompt like that?
Because human beings are inherently messy communicators. We rarely ask one perfectly clean, isolated question at a time.
That is very true.
Bundling them stress tests the AI's complex logic pathways. It ensures the agent can successfully isolate multiple distinct intents within a single panicked message from a user.
We force it to handle messy, multi-part human panic without freezing up.
Right. And if it passes that stress test, we reach the final phase, going live and tracking the actual return on investment.
The agent is now fully trained and tested. Now, it has to physically meet the students where they already live digitally, and it has to prove its actual worth to your daily schedule. You have to configure its channel integrations.
You go to Customize, then Channels. The options are vast. WhatsApp, Telegram, iMessage, Slack. You choose the specific application your students already prefer using.
Makes sense.
For a platform like Telegram, the integration is practically seamless. You just scan a generated QR code. It opens a creation screen directly inside the Telegram app.
Yeah, that easy.
Yeah. The data is already filled in, you just execute it, and the platform sets the bot up instantly.
There is a massive psychological relief embedded in that frictionless setup. You're not forcing frustrated students to download some clunky new app just to get support.
No one wants to do that.
Exactly. You are meeting them inside the environment they already trust and love.
You run a live test right there in the app. You send a real question. You verify it maintains the same tone and adheres to the same rules in the wild. Then you establish a crucial analytics protocol back in the main system.
You give it a specific tracking prompt, track exactly how many support tickets get resolved entirely by you, and calculate roughly how many hours that saves me each week. When I type the word analytics in our private chat, show me those exact numbers.
That specific data represents everything. You only add a second job to the agent after the data definitively proves the first job is functioning flawlessly.
Right.
If the analytics show it is struggling or escalating too often, you refine the prompts before expanding its scope.
What specific metric or ratio indicates we are finally ready to give the AI more responsibility?
You look closely at the time ratio. When the hours the agent consistently saves you vastly outweigh the minutes you spend manually reviewing its rare escalations, it is ready.
Okay.
It has mathematically proven its autonomy.
Autonomy is earned when the tool generates vastly more time than it costs.
Exactly. It must represent a definitive net positive for your cognitive load and your schedule. Speed. Let's take a step back and look at the broader implications here. By taking just one high-friction inbox task, by grounding it deeply in your exact course documents, by establishing strict fail-safe escalation guardrails,
Right.
and by relentlessly tracking the actual saved hours, you create a dynamic system that truly scales your presence entirely without scaling your stress.
It shifts your whole perspective on what automation actually means. Think about this for a second.
Okay.
If a struggling student gets instantaneous, highly accurate, and deeply encouraging support from an AI at 3:00 a.m., does the simple fact that it is automated actually improve their fundamental human experience with your brand?
That is a deeply fascinating question to sit with. 2-sec silence. Look at your own inbox today. Find your absolute biggest, most draining time sink. Map out just the very first step of automating it. Do not wait for the clock to tick down on yet another lost sale.
Thanks for listening to today's deep dive. Out to Yoro Music.